The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The Preseason Coaches Poll is out, and your Texas Longhorns stand alone at the top.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Earlier today, the first iteration of the 2025 USA Today Coaches Poll was released. Well, you didn't have to scroll very far to find the Texas Longhorns. Actually, you didn't have to scroll at all because Texas is at the very top. That's right. For the first time in program history, the Texas Longhorns will open a season as the number one team in the Coaches Poll. Kind of hard to believe with all the success that this program has had over the years that they've never started the year in the Coaches Poll as the top-ranked team in America. But here they are in 2025, one of the favorites to win the national championship, and in the eyes of the coaches, the best team in the nation going into the year. The Horns received 28 of a possible 67 first-place votes. That's 8 more than anyone else. The team that they're ranked one spot ahead of, and the team that got the second most first-place votes, well, that's the team that the Longhorns will see in Week 1, 26 days from now. That's right. If there wasn't enough hype already surrounding Longhorns Buckeyes matchup, it's now number 1 versus number 2, at least according to the coaches. That's game of the century stuff right there. Oh yeah. So again, a rematch from the Cotton Bowl, 2 blue bloods, 2 premier programs. College Game Day is going to be there. It'll be Lee Corso's last ever headgear pick, and then now everything else you throw the fact that at least according to the coaches, these are the top 2 teams in the land that'll be duking it out on August 30th. I mentioned that Ohio State got 20 first-place votes. Penn State was ranked 3rd, followed by Georgia, and then Notre Dame to round out the top 5. So before I continue, I would love to get y'all's thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below. What say you? Do you agree with Texas being at the top? Would you have somebody else there instead? If so, who would that be? Would love to hear from y'all. A few notes on the poll itself before I kind of dive into that question. Texas will play 4 teams that are in the top 25. At number 2, Ohio State. At number 4, Georgia. And then Florida came in ranked 17th. So at number 17, and then the 4th ranked opponent on Texas's schedule, at least as of right now, that is Texas A&M. They came in at number 21. So according to the coaches, Texas will play its 3 toughest opponents away from Austin. And I think if you surveyed 100 Texas fans and you asked them to rank the 3 most difficult games on the Longhorns 2025 schedule, I think the most common answer you would get, Georgia, Ohio State, Florida. Maybe you flip-flop the first 2 and put Ohio State ahead of Georgia. But I think most Texas fans believe that those are the 3 hardest games that Texas will play in the regular season. I tend to agree with that as well. So the 3 toughest games will be away from Austin this year. I better not hear people complaining about Texas having an easy schedule. I'm sure we will when the Longhorns are in the mix at the end of the year once again. A couple of other schedule nuggets. There are 9 SEC teams ranked in the top 25. That includes Texas, so 9 total. Oklahoma is not included in that group of 9. For the first time since 1999, that's wild here, OU will not start the year ranked in the preseason top 25 in the coaches poll. The AP poll comes out 7 days from now, so we'll see if the Sooners are ranked there. But boy, how the mighty have fallen. Oklahoma unranked in the coaches poll to begin the season. We'll see where these teams stack up in the rankings, obviously, when we get to the Cotton Bowl in early October. But yeah, Texas will play 4 of the other 8 preseason ranked teams in this coaches poll. A couple of weeks ago, Steve Sarkisian was speaking at the Texas High School Coaches Association event in San Antonio, and he was asked whether or not he cared about his team's preseason ranking. He said, quote, "I don't really care about the rankings, truth be told. I've sat up here and said the rankings don't matter when we weren't ranked very highly. I don't think that's going to change if we are ranked higher than Ohio State. preseason rankings are great. I think they're great for the fans. I think they're great for the popularity of our sports. It keeps the conversation of college football on the forefront of people's minds, the media, things of that nature. I think it's awesome for our sport, the fact that we're talking about week one matchups and all of those things. But in reality, they don't matter. What we do on the field and the way we perform is going to ultimately be what dictates how our season goes. That part doesn't hit me too much that way, end quote. So I agree with Steve Sarkisian. I think preseason rankings are great for the sport. A lot of people are trying to get rid of them. I can't figure out why. But at the end of the day, they don't really mean anything. All that matters at a place like Texas is where you're ranked at the end of the season. So, yeah, it's cool. You're making school history. First time that you've ever started the year as the number one team in the coaches poll. That's great. You've earned that spot. But no one's going to remember that if Texas comes up short of expectations this coming season. All that matters is where you are when the year is all said and done. Being preseason number one is cool. Being postseason number one is a hell of a lot cooler. Now, diving into the question, is it fair that Texas is the number one team in the land? I think it is. They're the only team in the country with back-to-back appearances in the college football playoff semifinal. They made it 2 straight conference championship games. They've won 1. They were just picked to win the SEC. They had more players on the preseason all-conference team than any other school in the conference. Of course, they lost a lot, but they lost a lot last year and had an even better 2024 than they were in 2023. So they've already shown in the Steve Sarkisian era that they can withstand losing double-digit draft picks and be really good. And oh, yeah, they did that in their first year in the Southeastern Conference. So this team is loaded with talent. They're loaded with depth. They're loaded with experience at key positions. They've got one of the best coaching staffs in the country. They also have continuity on the coaching staff. Not a lot of the teams that are ranked around Texas in this poll can say that they've got both of their coordinators. Help, all 3 of their coordinators, if you want to include special teams as well. Not a lot of teams have all 3 of their coordinators back. Texas is actually going into year 5 with the exact same crop of coordinators. So they've got pretty much everything that you would look for in a top-ranked team. Are there questions? Of course there are questions. That's why Texas was far from a unanimous number one, and that's why Texas might not be the number one team when the AP poll comes out in a week. But you look at all of the teams right below Texas, Ohio State at number 2. They lost more players than the Longhorns did, and they lost both of their coordinators, and they don't know who their quarterback is going to be 26 days from now when their season starts against the Horns. You look at Penn State at number 3. Did James Franklin win a big game? I don't know. Is Drew Aller good enough? Are the receivers good enough? They've got a new defensive coordinator as well. They've got some guys to replace on that team. Georgia at number 4, another team with double-digit draft picks in the 2025 NFL draft. They're replacing a quarterback as well with a guy that not a lot of people know a whole lot about. You look at Notre Dame at number 5, same thing. Bunch of draft picks, new quarterbacks. You go down the line, there's no spotless team in college football this year. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Like, nobody is perfect this season, but I would take Texas's situation over just about everybody's in college football. Again, tons of talent, a lot of depth, experience in key positions. Yes, you're breaking in a new quarterback, but the quarterback you're bringing in is going into his 3rd year with the program, and we know who he is. 5-star recruit, all the hype, the training that he's had. We feel like he's ready for this moment. Again, I think Texas is in a really, really favorable position, and it's clear that I am not alone. So we'll see. Am I right? More importantly, are the coaches right? Time will tell, but Texas very worthy of being in the mix at number 1, and I have no problem with Texas getting that selection. Can't you tell by the hat that I'm wearing today? Again, for those of you who are curious, the preseason AP poll drops next Monday. That's the one that the TV partners will use. So when you're looking at the scoreboard for Texas, Ohio State in 26 days, the coaches poll ranking is not the one that you're going to see. It'll be the AP poll. That's the one that most people talk about throughout the course of the season until the actual CFP rankings come out. But, man, crazy that Texas has never been the number one team in the coaches poll to start a season. They are here in 2025, and we'll see where the Longhorns land in the AP poll 1 week from today.
Ever wished managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs have agreed to a max extension.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast.
There's so many implications. There's so many ripple effects that this max deal the Spurs gave Fox is going to have with the Spurs in the medium term, maybe not the short term, but definitely the foreseeable future. It's going to come up like that. So we're going to be talking about that and more right here on Locked On Spurs. And yeah, I need you to subscribe. Keep those subscription numbers going up higher on YouTube. You guys are the everydayers. We appreciate it. It's going to bring in our guest. Look who's back to join us here on Locked On Spurs, Mr. Casey Vieira. It only made sense because we escaped by the skin of our teeth recording the show over the weekend. Then I was freaking out. I was like, oh my goodness, what if I release it? And I did early in the morning yesterday, and like 10 minutes later, it happens. But unfortunately, we got a good half a day, Casey, of our thoughts. But it's all but over. It looks like Spurs and Fox, they're good to go, at least for the foreseeable future. Let me start off with your reaction. Your quick reaction when you heard the news.
I was a little bit surprised, not by the money, because I figured it was going to be max money. That didn't surprise me. I'm not as much surprised about the timing because I did think they were going to get the extension done before the start of the year. I was a little bit surprised that they went to the fourth year for both sides. I think that on the Fox side of things, it really would have been enticing theoretically to go 2 years, a player option for a third, and then you hit that opt-out. You have a chance to get an even bigger deal as you near the back end of your career. And then on the Spurs side of things, and this is something we talked about yesterday, was they have the Castle and Harper dynamic to figure out as well. And did they want that to go a little bit more hand in hand with Fox's contract? So I thought that they were kind of leaning that direction. Right. Really, I was mistaken in that thought process. So if anything, I was a little bit surprised about that. But largely for the most part, numbers not a surprise. The fact that they got it done is not a surprise to me neither.
Yeah, my initial reaction was actually kind of a three-part reaction. My first one was, okay, no big deal, not a surprise. I felt this was coming. I'm with you. I really felt that it would be a near max. I don't think it'll be at the max. I really thought the Spurs were going to explore keeping some financial flexibility at the end of that extension. More on that later to help them with other players. But when they locked him up and the news came out that, the Spurs officially announced it too, that they locked him up for 4 years at max money. I was like, okay. The second thing that I reacted to was this. This is a sign to me that the Spurs want to win. This is a sign not just to the players, to Wemby, but to other NBA free agents down the road that you come to San Antonio, we'll take care of you. Commitments, promises are being kept. They kept the promise of Chris Paul. You'll be a starter for the rest of the season. They did that. They probably had a under-the-table promise to Fox in the Sacramento Spurs trade last season. He'll get a max contract. Nailed it. Done. Moving forward. And the third one, and I get your reaction on this one, is I saw the max number, right, as about 2022, about 229. And my first thought was, that's Luka money. That's Luka Doncic kind of money. I get why you give Luka this kind of deal, but why do you give this to Fox? That was the only kind of like, wow, they really gave him that Luka Doncic, Tyrese Halliburton money. And we'll get into that later. But those were kind of my reaction to that. Any other reactions you had?
I think that it speaks to their commitment to making the 3-guard lineup work. I think that's what it is. I think by them giving him that that fourth year, they're willing to really go after it and see what they have there with those three guys. And understandably so. I mean, understandably so. They have the luxury of that ability now. They have the luxury of, at its core, at its baseline, just having three really good basketball players at those positions who have a chance to make this team special. But yeah, I think the overriding sentiment for me too, and we really got a better idea of this a few months back after the draft, was that this is it. This is the team that they're rolling with now. This is what the man on your screen right there. That's.
Oh, let's put him back. Let's put him back. Yeah, might as well. He's the man of the hour.
Bring him back. Yeah, not you, him. There he is. But that between him and between Castle and Vassell and Keldon Johnson, and you saw it a little bit more at the trade deadline, pre-Wemby injury. What are we going to call it? Blood clot. Sure. Was that it felt like everybody, as a result of the trade, is kind of falling into their place of their designed roles for what we anticipated them being. And now we're seeing that again, plus the Harper dynamic of it, and you have the money to validate that, to lock it up, go forward. So this is just kind of a continuation of what we saw all the way back in February, that this is the team that they're going to be rolling with. Expect it the rest of the way. And finally, there's that level of uniformity, I guess, that hasn't been here. There's always going to be the hypothetical game, but the hypothetical game, so to speak, is not as rich as it once was, posing superstars, things like that. There's no Giannis talk, there's no Kevin Durant talk. This is it. This is the product, and this is what they're rolling with going forward, and they feel good about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it also signals to the team, to the franchise, to other NBA teams, and of course, possible trade and free agents, that you come to San Antonio, your cornerstones is not going to just be Wemby. It's now Fox. So you can promote that to other players, saying like, hey, you come to San Antonio, you got yourself an all-star guard, and you got yourself an all-world center, and let's rock and roll. How can you help this team moving forward? This is what the NBA is now. And the Spurs are going to have to, keep that going, that two-star front, because the NBA, to be a good team, you got to have at minimum 2 stars. OKC showed that last year. You need at minimum 2 stars, with Williams and Shea. So, and I think the Spurs have sent out the signal to the rest of the league, to the players. You come to San Antonio, we're about winning. And, kudos to the Spurs and Brad Wright and the management getting it done too, because historically the Spurs have always been like penny pitchers. Oh, they don't pay max deals. They don't do this. No, this is like a different time, different era. Unfortunately, there's no Tim Duncan to give them a hometown discount. That was not going to happen. But it's also too good. It's a good look, the Spurs dealing with Clutch Sports, that agency that seems to control the NBA and players. So there's some good vibes there. Overall, it was a good thing they did. But that max money, we'll get into that in a bit. It's a little concerning, but again, we'll talk about that in a while. One more thing before we hit the break here, Casey, I get your thoughts on this, is that there is some people on social media, I'm not going to name names, they're saying the Spurs did wrong. He was Fox. He's not a max player. Right. And you can see some legitimacy to that.
The new coaches poll is out, and Illinois football debuts at 12.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Illinois football, yes, Illinois football debuted at number 12 on the USA Today coaches poll. Go ahead, take a minute. I'll let that sink in. I believe this is the second highest preseason ranking we've had in school history. This is a sign that coaches all around the country and the establishment are saying, hey, we see you. But here's the reality. While it's exciting, while it's certainly fun, this number ultimately means nothing. If Illinois doesn't show up and deliver this fall, then all of it was for naught. And today, we're going to break down why this ranking matters, why it doesn't, and why Brett Bielema, this coaching staff, and these players are officially on the clock. So as of today, let me be clear. This ranking is significant, especially when you consider where this program is coming from. According to quick research, the last time Illinois was even ranked in the preseason was 2008. And that's coming off that Rose Bowl season. That team opened at 19. Before that, you're digging into history books, years filled with what ifs, near misses, and rebuilding seasons. So, yeah, in a lot of ways, this season is validation. This is the national football world saying Illinois could absolutely be for real. And it comes on the back of a 10-win season, of course, the Citrus Bowl victory, and 4 ranked wins in 2024. But now is when things get real, because preseason polls are exactly that. Preseason. They're a reflection of last year's results and off-season hype. Really, not much more than that. Ask any Illini fan who's been around long enough. We've seen this movie. In 2008, the top 20 ranking vanished fast after a rocky start. Even more recently, there have been years where the buzz never materialized into wins. So while the number 12 ranking feels good today, it doesn't help you when you're lining up against Washington on the road or USC under the lights in Champaign. Brett Bielema himself said, "Some people give expectations, and that's great. But for us at Illinois, we have to earn them. The way we've earned these expectations will be the way we earn success this year." And he's right. Because right now, this ranking is just simply a target. And Illinois, for the first time in decades, is no longer the underdog. They're going to be one of the teams that are hunted. So how did Illinois reach this level of national respect? Let's start with roster continuity. Illinois returned 16 starters, including stars Luke Altmaier, who threw for over 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, I believe. Gabe Yakis, who I talked about extensively on Monday's episode, 8 sacks, 13 for loss, legitimate All-American candidate. Plus, you have the NFL hopefuls like Xavier Scott and J.C. Davis on both sides of the football. But also, on top of that, you talk about coaching stability for the first time under Brett Bielema. All 3 coordinators returned. The core leadership is veteran heavy. This team has been built, not bought overnight. And the portal added firepower too, including Hudson Clement, the West Virginia transfer with over 700 yards last year. And we have young up-and-coming wide receivers like Malik Elzy and Colin Dixon, who could break out this fall. Quarterback Luke Altmaier summed it up best. "We asked to be talked about in the polls. That means you're doing something pretty good. But we understand what's important. We're an older group. If we don't do what we have to do on a random Tuesday in July, then you're going to struggle in the fall." That is the mindset you need, especially now that it's obvious that the country is watching. This year feels different, not just because of the ranking, but because of all this momentum. Illinois isn't being handed hype. At this point, they've earned it. 10 wins, a big bowl victory, player development, guys staying in the program instead of jumping ship or going to the NFL. The Big Ten media has Illinois picked 4th, behind only Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. That's elite company. And the national rankings, Fox has Illinois at 10, ESPN at 11, CBS and 24/7 both in the top 15. This isn't just a one-off fluke. Illinois is being recognized. Even Vegas is noticing. The over-under win total, according to FanDuel, is 8.5. That's the highest it's been in years. But none of that matters unless you handle your business. And here's where the conversation flips. With the top 15 ranking comes expectation. And with expectations come accountability. This is where Brett Bielema and his staff have to earn those paychecks. Because now it's no longer about building, it's about delivering. And that is an entirely different job. There's no wait till next year anymore. Next year is here. It's go time. The staff has the pieces. They have the schedule. Remember, there's no Michigan, no Penn State, no Oregon. They have the fan momentum. They are selling out seats. They have the returning core. They even have transfer depth. What they don't have is room for excuses. This team has to go out and win the games it's supposed to win and steal a few that it's not. That's how top 15 teams operate. Illinois is going to open under the lights against Western Illinois on August 29th, 6:30 p.m. on Peacock. But from there, the road starts to get real. We're going to have a game at Duke. Later on in the season, we have games at Washington. Of course, we have home games against USC, Ohio State, and very tough trips to places like Bloomington for the Indiana game. It's a schedule with trap games, but also statement opportunities. A 10-win season isn't just possible. At this point, some people, it's an expectation. And you know what? Overall, in the grand scheme of things, I think that's a great thing. But it's also new territory. The message from inside the program seems clear. We know what this means. Now we have to go and prove it. So you let me know right now at 12, when you saw that ranking, too high, too low, or exactly where this team belongs. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what your win prediction is for Illinois this season. I'm guessing in about 2 weeks or so, I'm going to do my game-by-game prediction. And I'm just being honest with you guys. I don't know where I'm going to stand. I can go, honestly, as low as 7 wins. I can go as high as 10, maybe even 11 wins. So right now, I feel like I change my mind every single day when it comes to the game-by-game. How many games is this Illinois football team going to win? But seeing the expectations now being set forth, you're not going to surprise anyone. You're debuting at number 12 in the coaches poll. With that, it's comes a sense of just being unfamiliar with what this feels like. I talked about this on X. It's one of those where I see it and I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited. But with the years of being an Illini football fan and seeing how we followed up these successful seasons, I am admittedly a little bit worried. But Coach Bielema has been very insistent that at some point we have to drop the past. And I will say that if any coach can do that for Illinois football and make us feel comfortable in what's going to be the new reality, well, it's Coach Brett. At this point,
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed.
So I think Howie Roseman just found his replacement for Keely Ringo. We're going to break down the Jakorian Bennett trade.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
Trader Howie Roseman strikes again. As he always does, it feels like at the end of the summer, Howie makes a move in August that really impacts the depth chart, whether it's on offense, getting LeGarrette Blount in 2017, whether it's on defense, getting Ronald Darby in 2017, getting James Bradbury in 2022, getting CJ Gardner-Johnson in 2022. This is just vintage Howie Roseman. He did it again, agreeing at 11 o'clock at night on a Monday with a deal with the Las Vegas Raiders for cornerback Jakorian Bennett, sending defensive tackle Thomas Booker V over to Vegas. And this isn't just some, I think a lot of people don't know who Jakorian Bennett is. This isn't just some depth move for a player that has experience in a young cornerback room to be the, fourth or fifth guy, to be more of an upgrade over a Mac McWilliams or an Adoree Jackson. No, I think what Howie Roseman just did was find his Keely Ringo replacement. I think he did exactly what I suggested on the podcast the other day, which was, if Keely Ringo cannot beat out Adoree Jackson, no, I do not think they should start Adoree Jackson all year. I do not think Adoree Jackson is good enough to be a starting outside cornerback for a Super Bowl favorite. I don't think he's good enough to start 17 games at a high level and the playoffs. If Keely Ringo, as high as I am on Ringo's potential, if he can't beat out that guy, it should be the field. It should be Keely Ringo or the field. I'm not saying that it's over for Keely Ringo, but the Jakorian Bennett trade is a really bad sign for Ringo in the franchise's belief in him. It's a bad sign for Vic Fangio's belief in Keely Ringo. I think Howie Roseman is much higher on Keely Ringo than Vic Fangio, but Howie Roseman also really listens to Vic Fangio. And I think Bennett is a guy that can not only compete to be the CB2 on the outside, considering he's played the majority of his snaps in the NFL and in college on the outside. Not only do I think he's going to compete with Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson, I think he's now the favorite to be the outside cornerback opposite Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Jakorian Bennett was one pick ahead of Keely Ringo in the 4th round of the 2023 NFL Draft. He has played 712 snaps at outside corner, just 28 snaps in the slot. He started 11 games over the past 2 years, and his numbers are really good. He's allowed just 18 catches on 37 targets. That was last year, managing 7 pass breakups. I mean, some of his matchups against star receivers like Jamar Chase, he held him to just 3 receptions for 16 yards on 14 targets. Against Cortland Sutton, 1 reception for 24 yards on 3 targets. He held Ladd McConkey to no catches on just 1 target. Like, this isn't some Eli Ricks competition. Jakorian Bennett is a bad sign for Keely Ringo and for Adoree Jackson. Listen to his stats among NFL corners with at least 450 snaps. He's allowed 18 receptions, 3rd in the NFL. This was last year. 37 targets, tied for 10th. 176 yards allowed total, 2nd in the league. 0 touchdowns allowed, 9 pass breakups, a 62.4 QBR. And he's, 23, 24 years old. He runs a 4.3 flat, 40-yard dash. This was a guy that, when you look at his advanced stats, was one of the best zone coverage corners in the entire NFL last year. And considering Vic Fangio plays zone coverage, it feels like 90% of the time. Take note of this trade. This isn't the Jaquiski Tart signing of a few years ago. This isn't bringing in depth. This is very similar to the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade, to the signing of James Bradbury, to bring in LeGarrette Blount in 2017. I said it earlier this week. I'll say it again. Keely Ringo, and I said on the show yesterday, a tie between Ringo and Jackson, that should go to Keely Ringo. But for the Eagles, I'm starting to think Keely had to beat out Adoree Jackson convincingly. And if not, they were going to go out and make another move. Now, I kept suggesting it was Asante Samuel Jr., maybe a Rasul Douglas, maybe you trade for a Greg Newsome from the Cleveland Browns. Like, those were the 3 names that I continued to put out there. But when you think about the kind of move that Howie Roseman makes, like, this makes all the sense in the world. And to only give up Thomas Booker for a player of Bennett's caliber that's had this kind of production, and again, he's only had 11 starts in 2 years. It's not like the Eagles just traded for Derek Stingley, or it's not like they brought in a Reek Woolen. But to give up Thomas Booker, your 5th defensive tackle on the depth chart, maybe not even 5th, because Gabe Hall's been playing really well in training camp, and I thought maybe he could take Booker's job. We know Ty Robinson's going to be ahead of him. Like, that's such a steal. By the way, Gabe Hall, one of Gino Camilleri's my guys. Shout out to Gino. He's been having a great camp. Yeah, this is a legit move. And look, I would still like to see Keely Ringo get a chance to grow and start the season. I know it's a Super Bowl year, but I would like to have him go through some growing pains, but you see the flashes as well. He's younger than Quinyon Mitchell. But Howie Roseman listens to Vic Fangio, and I just don't think Vic Fangio is a Ringo guy. Adoree Jackson, whether we like it or not, was leading this competition. 5 practices over the last 8 practices where he started with the first-team defense 3 times for Keely Ringo. And while, again, I don't agree with that, it's been close. I think Ringo should just get the opportunity to be the guy. The fact of the matter is that Fangio was giving Jackson those reps. He was giving Isaiah Rodgers that job last year. I just don't think Fangio's ever going to believe in Keely to the same level as other players, because while Keely Ringo has his strengths, I don't think they're the kind of strengths that Vic Fangio wants in his scheme. I don't think they're the kind of strengths that he wants in his cornerbacks. I think the weaknesses of Keely outweigh the strengths in Fangio's eyes. And I think for me, if that is the case and you are Howie Roseman, you have to accept it, and you got to give Fangio then some other alternatives that aren't Adoree Jackson. Because again, Adoree Jackson, if he's beating out Ringo, like, okay, awesome, good for him. That to me is not good enough. That more to me is a referendum on Keely Ringo's inability to beat out an aging 31-year-old player that I just don't think has the same level of speed or coverage ability that he did even a couple years ago in New York. I think that's more of a referendum on Ringo than it is a hype session of Adoree Jackson's abilities. So this move, to me, tells Eagles fans, tells the organization that they're looking for outside help to be a starting outside corner for the Eagles defense in 2025. This tells me that maybe they're not all out on Ringo, but I think they're losing faith. Again, it's not like they brought in some star. It's not like they, even brought in Asante Samuel Jr., who's a bigger name, has more production. But this isn't some random depth move. Like, this is a legitimate trade that broke on a Monday night at 11 o'clock that I think we really need to take notice of. Jakorian Bennett traded to the Eagles for only defensive tackle Thomas Booker. And football Twitter, the nerds, the analytics, side of football Twitter, the, draft junkies as well, the film guys, they all really like this move. And like one I'm reading right now, never trade with Howie Roseman. I get that Bennett doesn't fit the Pete Carroll profile, but he was so productive last season and is so young. Don't like this trade for Vegas. Like, that's what a lot of people are saying, and everybody's churning out these stats, and they're really impressive. And he's 5'11", he's a little bit undersized, but Jakorian Bennett runs a 4.3 flat. And when he's shutting down guys like Jamar Chase and Cortland Sutton and Ladd McConkey, those are three very different style receivers. That tells you that this might be a complete cornerback that's entering his prime that Howie Roseman got for pennies on the dollar. And also contractually, they're paying him a 4th-round rookie contract. So this is just your typical Howie Roseman move.
Ever wished managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I have discovered disturbing trend from some folks who listen, and we appreciate everybody who listens, even those who disagree with us. You can be wrong all you want to. But there's some folks that are like, you guys just are absolutely frothing at the mouth over the prospects of Ty Simpson. I don't think that's it. In fact, I was saying early in the summer that I thought Keelan Russell would overtake him. I no longer think that. I think Ty Simpson's going to be good. I think he's going to be really good. But this whole conversation came up because we're on a text chain with all the Locked On SEC hosts. And one of our hosts, who hosts the Ole Miss site, does a great job. He's got the best setup of any of us, by the way, in terms of like his man cave basement thing. But he said, I'm about to tick off some Texas and Florida fans because I'm going to say Austin Simmons is the best young quarterback in this conference. And Texas fans are going to lose their mind because of Arch Manning, and Florida fans are going to lose their mind because of DJ Lagway. He's not saying he's the best quarterback in this league. I mean, that plum is obviously going to go to, I want to say Landon Duckworth again. We had to start over recording because I said Lenore Sellers. And Garrett,
he's the qualifier young. He's the qualifier young. So I guess he wasn't saying Austin Simmons better than Nussmeier and Lenore Sellers, I guess.
By the way, isn't Austin Simmons the guy who graduated at age 15 or something? Graduated high school at age 15? He's
so young, it would have knocked Ryan Williams off the front page. He just wasn't playing, when he was, quote, that young, but he showed up to Ole Miss. I'm sure he was 17 when he showed up to Ole Miss because he was young and then reclassified. And, I'm not a big reclassification fan, as you all know. I mean, obviously there's going to be exceptions to that rule, but we'll see. I know this. Stephen Willis, the Ole Miss Locked On guy, he's not the only one. There are some Ole Miss people close to the program that are insanely high on Austin Simmons. I hope it's what he's been showing them on the practice field, and it's not an overreaction to the one series he had against the Georgia Bulldogs last year when he came in for a hurt Jackson Dart led Ole Miss down the field, scored a touchdown against Georgia. And that was kind of, I think a lot of Ole Miss fans, they're high on him over that, which I understand it. But boy, I say all the time, the enemy of a good evaluation is small sample size. That's about as small a sample size as you can get.
Okay. But, it did raise the question with me, and we didn't bring it up in the text chain because I didn't want to start another firestorm. But, I started thinking, why wouldn't that be Ty Simpson? Now, you could make the case Ty Simpson doesn't qualify as young. But I'm going to make the case that Ty Simpson, I'm going to say this. I'm going to make a prediction. This is going to be,
loud.
Ty Simpson's going to be an all SEC performer, team 1, 2, or 3. And I don't think it'll be 1 or 2.
That's a loud prediction because I've been raving all summer long about how deep the SEC is in high quality quarterbacks. And in terms of proven guys, Nussmeier's proven, Seller's proven, Lagway, as far as I'm concerned, proven. John Mateer, very proven. I know Arch is unproven, but I couldn't be more confident in the assertion that Arch is going to be great. You got Ty Simpson. You got Ole Miss fans just so excited about Austin Simmons. The guy I leave out all the time might be the best one of all of them, frankly, and Diego Pavia, who, I think we sort of forget him at times because we say, oh, Vanderbilt, oh, gimmicky. I don't know. You look at Diego Pavia's numbers, and they're pretty ridiculous. They're frankly Heisman worthy. He just can't win the Heisman at Vanderbilt going 6-6. They're going to have to do something more spectacular than that win-loss wise. But this league is full of great quarterbacks. For you to predict that Ty will be first, second, or third team is a heck of what I'd call a loud or bold prediction. But I don't disagree. I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong because I've been driving the Ty train for quite a while. I think Ty's going to be really good myself. I don't know that I would go that far, but I don't doubt it. It won't surprise me. The only thing one thing will surprise me, and that's if Ty's not good and has to be replaced. That will surprise me. If Ty's so not good that they go with one of the other two. Keelan, super talented, probably not ready. Austin Mack, closer to ready. I'm just not convinced he's got the ceiling, that Keelan Russell has. But I'm super high on Ty. I'll tell you one more thing while I've got the floor. I'll go ahead and get it out of my system now. You know one thing's going to infuriate me is when Ty's good and all we read or hear from Alabama fans is why wasn't he playing last year? It's gonna.
Oh, that's coming.
It's gonna drive me nuts because if for 100 reasons. But I'll just go with one right now, and that's when Arch is great, then why didn't Sark bench Quinn Ewers last year? And he wasn't going to do that. Just like DeBoer wasn't going to bench Milroe, and Milroe got drafted 4 rounds higher than Quinn Ewers. And Arch Manning, probably better player than Ty Simpson, to be honest. And he didn't bench his senior leader, dependable, winning quarterback. And so it's gonna upset me, but y'all are used to me being upset and ranting and being the old man shaking my fist at the clouds.
I'm already regretting that I've made this proclamation because I'm now thinking I'm going to be wrong but it's almost me, I just sort of got my hackles up a little bit thinking about, hey, look, Ty's going to be in a bunch of big games. He's going to be in a bunch of primetime moments. He's got a fantastic receiving core. He's got an offensive coordinator that is probably going to be better than last year's offensive coordinator. He's got a really good offensive line. Got a great center. That's always crucial. Got a lot of tight end options. I'm buying in. I'm buying in more and more. And I understand some people are like, you were just gumping out all over Bammer. Okay, fine. Can I do it one time? Can I Bammer up one time? Can y'all let me do that?
So many people consider it blind optimism. Oh, you're just blind optimist because you're just always going to be optimistic about Alabama. There's logical reasons that Ty is very likely to be good. And let's start with the fact he's a 5-star prospect, a 5-star. And the last few Alabama guys that have taken over at the same age as Ty, Mac Jones, Jake Coker, Blake Sims, Greg McElroy, all those guys won championships. And they took over late in their careers. None of them were 5 stars. Ty is. And nothing's happened to his skills to diminish. He hasn't been hurt. So there's a logical reason. Like, well, why is Jimmy and Luke so high on Ty? I mean, why them two? Here's someone else high on Ty. Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer knew Ty was likely to be his quarterback. Did he go to the transfer portal in the winter? No. He saw Ty first team all spring. Did he go to the transfer portal in the spring? No. Is Keelan Russell and Ty Simpson battling neck and neck? No. Ty's ahead. The coaches have told us he is. It's not just Jimmy and Luke. It's Kalen DeBoer kind of loudly saying, Ty's pretty good. I know he's not going to say those words out loud until you see it in games, but I judge people by their actions as much as their words. And actions are they believe in Ty, or they would be doing something else.
Yeah. I mean, I do immediately regret predicting this. Can I go back on it and say he will be in all SEC contention?
It's just, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say at all. I expect him to play that well. I think the only reason he might not be is just because the league is so crowded with so good. This is a great QB league. I know the Big 12 is getting a lot of attention. Some of these SEC guys aren't quite as proven. I think they're going to be really good. Even teams in the league, Bo Pribula, Missouri might be really good. I think people are a little harsh on Gunnar Stockton. Kirby Smart believes in him. I mean, Kirby's a Gunnar Stockton fan, and Kirby sort of knows what he's doing, right? I think the league is just full of good quarterbacks.
It is. And, but, when I think about John Mateer, and certainly he'd be an option, but, I mean, I wonder what kind of receivers they have because they lost their best receivers, and so
right.
I just look at it like Ty's got the pieces around him. I'm not saying he's going to have a Vince Young type of year. I'm saying he's going to be third team on the SEC. I don't think that's nuts.
No. And some people, I think it's Jordan Rodgers. Somebody on the SEC network said John Mateer would win the Heisman. My first thought was, does he have enough receivers to make that happen? Because
they have the schedule to make that happen. I mean,
exactly.
When's the last time somebody won the Heisman without winning a bunch of games?
Yeah, the schedule is too tough for Oklahoma. I saw it just today because we're going to talk about it in segment 2, but Oklahoma plays as many top 25 teams as anybody, and I question the receivers. But I know this. I knew all about Mateer. Mateer's not new to me as a college football guy, but the Mateer I've seen this summer and in fall camp and that they've covered on SEC Network, and I saw him at SEC Media Days, the more I learn about Mateer, the more sold I am on this guy as a legitimate dude. But I'm with you, Luke. He does have a great running back in Jaden Ott, the transfer from Cal. But they lost, I think, their best playmaking receiver, Nick Anderson, to LSU. He's going to be probably their wide receiver 1, which is saying a lot this year with as deep a group as they've got. But, yeah, I'm big on Mateer. I still say Arch Manning will be the best quarterback in the league.
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed.
Joining us now, there he is. Former All-Pro and Ivy League Hall of Famer, Marcellus that dude Wiley. Marcellus, great to see you, buddy. The recent Wiley World photo that you posted was awesome. Blessings to you and your family. And hey, thanks for coming on today. Good to see you.
It's been forever, Big Z. Great seeing you, man, and
Yeah.
continued success to you,
You
man. How's
too.
it going, guys?
Good.
All right,
Good to have you.
Yeah, that's Landon McCool. He's the co-host of the Daily Cowboys podcast, and that's former Cowboys coach Glenn Stretch Smith.
How you
Oh,
doing?
yeah. I was listening to the
guys just
jewels
missed
he
it,
was
man.
dropping, talking about those quick feet from Lionel Collins. Yeah, you guys got some studs out there up front. It's going to be fun to see.
We'll find
All right.
out.
Yeah, so I'm curious, buddy. You did your own show, a solo Micah Parsons Project show on the hydration situation. So,
Yeah.
what do you think? Keeping it real, I mean, is this just business as usual? Do you think for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, or maybe this time is a little different?
Yeah, I guess I have a different take of it. Obviously, I signed my own deal with the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones before, back in 2004. And just from that experience and all my NFL contract experiences, I think there were a lot of missteps made, more so from Micah Parsons' side than even Jerry Jones. I don't think people really want to give management ownership any benefit of the doubt because they have all that money and resources. So it seems like everything's stacked in their favor. But at the same time, fair is fair. So if I'm Micah Parsons, I'm never walking into a meeting with Jerry Jones that's about leadership and letting it pivot to any other place but leadership. And so Micah Parsons has signed a deal before, his rookie deal. He's not a rookie to this experience. And I don't think that Jerry Jones was trying to manipulate him. Everyone wants to make him seem like he's like this old savvy guy who just sitting there, twirling his thumbs and his brow is raised and just trying to manipulate the moment. They may just be having a casual conversation and it twisted into something that it shouldn't. And that's when you call your agent, or that's when you abruptly say, okay, I got to go work out, etc. That said, Jerry Jones does have a track record of stretching these things out. I think from his mindset, he's like, look, these guys are on cheaper deals than the one they're going to sign. So every day I keep them on this old deal, rookie deal, whatever it may be, I'm saving money. People don't understand that. They're like, no one wants to write a $200 million check, but some people earn it. They force you to write it because of their value. But doesn't mean you want to write it early. Doesn't mean you want to write it faster than you have to. So I may sound pro-management, but I just know if you're a baller like Micah Parsons is, you're going to get paid eventually, somehow, some way. Keep balling. The money's only going to be greater later, and then you're going to be even happier.
Well said. I like that.
Absolutely true. And I also think that, as much as they are trying to kind of squeeze water from a stone leverage wise here with some of the stuff, right? I mean, because of all the things we talked about, we still got the 5th year of his deal. He still has 2 more franchise tags that they can place on him if they really feel like they have to. I guess one of my questions I have, Marcellus, is how I think part of the issue is that Jerry tries to have a relationship with these kind of players all across the board, right? He tries to have a personal relationship with these folks. And so there are times when, whether he's being savvy and trying to manipulate the guy, or it's just 2 guys who are talking that obviously have a contract conversation to have at some point, falling into that conversation. I just wonder if it isn't a situation where, because Jerry's around these players maybe more than an average owner, and because he is talking to these guys more than an average owner, I wonder if these kind of conversations don't just naturally happen, whether they should or shouldn't be, more often than with the Cowboys than they do with other teams.
Yeah, I can see the lines certainly getting blurred, and that's good and bad. There are pros and cons to that. Like, think about it. If the guy who's going to pay you money, all of a sudden you guys chum up to the point where you guys are having casual conversations about hundreds of millions of dollars, that should work in your favor. But what doesn't work in your favor is the fact that you have been on record saying you would take less. You've been also the same guy who's had these conversations without your representation being involved every step of the way. You're also the same guy who's told them you don't really want to be anywhere else. So you've kind of given away your own leverage even before you walk into that meeting. So your agent has a lot to kind of work against because you've been on record kind of working against yourself. These are those situations where if you're Michael Parsons, you got to also have a business acumen or mature in that respect and allow your agent to do his job. If you want to talk to Jerry Jones going to talk back. Jerry Jones knows he has at least 3 more years of your services. So therefore, he doesn't have to rush to do anything, but you're in a rush to get paid to the point where you want to get paid even less to stay a Cowboy. How do you think that's going to work out with anybody, any owner? But since it's Jerry Jones, we kind of demonize it more than any other owner who would be in that same predicament, same situation.
Well, I know you realize this. I know you realize this, having played for so long. And, I was in the building 9 years before you got there. And I'm fully aware of how you deal with Jerry. Might be a little different with how you deal with Steven. They're on the same page, but they're different personalities. And then, here's the other thing. Not ever can I ever remember a player saying, well, you know what? I'm going to go in here and negotiate with Jerry, and I'm going to give him a hometown discount because this is where I want to live, or this is where I want to be. At the end of the day, that has never worked out. There's never such thing as a hometown discount. Like I can't even think about that when they were talking about, well, Jalen Ramsey bought a home in Fort Worth. Maybe he's going to sign with the Cowboys for $10 million less. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. It never did and never will. Look, there's so many misnomers out there. When it's time for you to hit free agency or you have leverage to get an extension, fans don't want to hear it, but the money talks, and it talks loud. Like, you just got to see what's the best business package for you. Then you start to get into some other devilish details, and you want to get into some of the more fine print things because there are some teams where you're like, man, they don't have a chance to really get over the hump. And there are some teams that are so close or over that hump that may have an advantage. But largely, it's a financial package, whether that's what state in terms of income tax, et cetera. It's also what team in terms of what can they give you in resources. I'll be real. I left Buffalo on a free agency deal to go to San Diego, which at the time was like the worst team in the league, to the point where we had the number 1 pick. And then that was traded away with Michael Vick. And then that turns into LT and Drew Brees. So, I wanted to go there because they had great defenders, Junior Seau, Rodney Harrison, Rayleigh Johnson, et cetera. But they also offered the most money. And was that a coincidence? I don't think so. I think I looked at the most money, said I'd rather go somewhere with the most financial package, the best package, and the worst record versus the best record and the worst financial package. So people got to be real.
That's awesome. So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to take just a quick different angle on this a little bit and talk about Cowboys fandom and like the actual media reaction, because that to me is the only area where this feels actually different than a lot of other negotiations, is that it does feel like more so than previous seasons, Cowboys fandom have really started to turn on the Joneses about the way that they're, and listen, I agree with your analysis of the situation and how they've handled it, and that it's at the very least 50-50, if not, Micah having misplayed some of this situation more than anything. But it does feel like the backlash is going back against the Joneses. And I know that they've had like this in the universal truth of all press is good press situation. But do you feel like the angles have changed on that in the last few years with the way that Micah and the Mugalatas of the world have kind of played social media and the way they've handled this? Do you think that that's like freezing that whole idea a little bit more as this goes on?
Well, I think every year you distance yourself from the Cowboys' excellence of the 90s. You just have growing and greater resentment to any direction that they take until they can actually hit the equal sign and show everyone a deep playoff run, NFC championship game, or a Super Bowl opportunity. So people are just thinking that they're rudderless no matter which direction they're going in because of the results.
Yeah.
We lost you. Your
We lost
mic went off, Marcellus. Hey, Marcellus, your mic went off.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There we
Man, I
go.
was
There we
dropping
go.
the too. Sorry. Okay, so no, but I think that people just look at the Cowboys like they're rudderless because of outcome. Even when the Cowboys make the right decisions, people look at them the wrong way. Like they draft well, they have great personnel. They're always a more talented team than not. And people see the outcome, a wild card loss or no playoff run, and then they say, see, this is what's wrong with us. And it's like those things are separate in terms of decision and in terms of result. So the Cowboys, until they get back to that excellence, every year distant from the 90s Super Bowl run makes everyone question every single thing about this organization. So there's growing resentment that continues to be greater because people look at it like, where are we going? Because we don't like where we are. But I like a lot of the moves the Cowboys make. I like a lot of decisions the Cowboys make. It's just, you got to remember, there are 32 teams. One smiles, the rest frown and try to reset and do it again. And it's not like Jerry Jones hasn't done it before. It's not like Jerry Jones not only hasn't done it before with Jimmy Johnson, but did it with another coach. So where I'm from, people will say, well, Jerry Jones could win with multiple coaches. Who's to say that that stopped in the 90s? Maybe it had to go through a little break, a little gap, and then they can reset and get back there. We'll see, because if they don't do that, everything will be questioned because of that resentment that they have for this team.